Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Devtoberfest, the final front-end Friday of the final week of Devtoberfest. And we're finishing with some great sessions today, starting out with this one. So welcome, thanks so much for joining. We've got a packed Friday, actually. In fact, I've got the calendar, the Devtoberfest calendar link in my chat ready to press enter. So there you go, check that out. So let me introduce, first of all, the two most important people in this live stream. That's David and Dominic. I'll hand over to them in a second. And they're going to be talking about a subject that's close to my heart. I used to work with theming a few years ago now, when in my days before I joined SAP. Fantastic. So without further ado, let me hand over to David and Dominic to talk about branding for SAP applications. By the way, ask questions in the chat, as many as you want. I'll be monitoring those and I'll refer those to David and Dominic as and when appropriate, but we'll have hopefully some time at the end as well for a bit of Q&A and discussion. So thanks, you two, over to you.
So maybe I will start. Hello from my side. I'm David, a developer at the UI theme designer team, and we work on the UI theme designer tool to give you the possibility to customize SAP applications and non-SAP applications. And I hope after this session, you will get ready to start customizing your own applications.
That's right. And I'm Dominic. I'm an architect in the UI theme designer team. And mainly I work with the theming parameters, which we expose to all SAP UI frameworks in which they use to make their applications themable. David will start with showing how this works.
So let's start my screen sharing and start our presentation. So again, welcome to the presentation. The topic we have prepared is branding for SAP applications. But let me just say, it's not only SAP applications we can brand with the UI theme designer. So we have a small but packed agenda. I will give you a short general overview about the UI theme designer, what it is and how it is working. And then we jump right into a demo and I will show you how easy it is to build your first own custom theme. After that, Dominic will deep dive into the theming parameters we provide with the UI theme designer at our service, and he has also a nice demo prepared for you. So let's start with the quote from Sir Richard Branson. He said once, "The way a company brands itself is everything, and it will ultimately decide whether a business survives." I think this is a nice and strong quote to picture out that branding for company is very, very important. And I think we don't have to stop at products. We have to do this also for our applications and the software. And with the UI theme designer, it's super easy to build your own custom theme with your corporate identity and map this to your applications. But first things first, what is a theme? A theme in the SAP context always defines the visual appearance of an application. And for that, we use custom colors, background images. You can change font sizes and font types and many, many more. But keep in mind that all changes always should suit the purpose, the topic, or the taste of different users. That means if you start custom theming your applications, keep in mind for what the theme should be and who will interact with the applications. And after that, you can start theming. We have one specialty at SAP. Our custom themes are always derived from an SAP base theme. And this is pictured with the two pictures on the bottom. On the left side, we have an FLP application with the latest SAP Morning Horizon theme. And on the right side, we have the custom theme on top of the base theme. And I can see the clear difference between these pictures. We have changed background image, we have changed icon colors, and we have a custom logo. And all this I will show you later in the demo. So let's talk about the key features and benefits of the UI theme designer. On the right side, I have a screenshot of the tool, but let's start with the first point. The UI theme designer is for technology theming. That's what I meant when I said it's not only for SAP application, you can also customize non-SAP applications. And inside the SAP universe, you can not only theme SAP UI5 applications, you can also theme WebDynpro ABAP applications, SAP GUI HTML applications, fundamental library applications. And in the latest release, you can also customize SAP mobile start applications. As you can see in the picture, our tool is browser-based. That means no complicated installation or setup of the system. Just type in the URL and start theming right away. To make it more easy to start custom theming, we ship the UI theme designer with built-in preview pages. Built-in preview pages are pages that shows you either controls or whole applications. And in the picture on the right side, there is a preview page in the center that shows an FLP application. And with that, it's super easy to start theming, because if you change any parameters, the changes will affect the preview page immediately. Our theme designer is for all kind of skill levels. So if you're total beginners, you can also enter the theme designer and start playing around a bit, change some parameters, and you will see with minimal effort, you will get a nice custom theme. And if you are a designer or even an expert in custom theming, you can dig very, very deep into the theme and change over 800 parameters. One of the cool features we provide in our tool is the color palette for reuse. The color palette for reuse is a place where the customers can define their own variables. So if you're a company with many different color codes you want to reuse in your custom theme, you don't want to remember the color codes every time you want to use that color. So define a parameter, or a palette parameter, we call it, and give this parameter the color code, and then you can use the variable every time you want to use this specific color. For beginners, one of the coolest features, I think, is the control picker. You can activate the control picker and hover over a preview page and select the part of the preview page. In the example on the right, maybe you hover over the tile and select the tile with the control picker. Then you get a list on the right side of the parameters that is used in the tiles. So you don't have to learn 800 parameters before you start custom theming. Just select the control picker, select your control you want to customize, get the list of parameters, and change the parameters like you want them. So the benefits are clearly on hand. With the UI theme designer, you can always apply your corporate identity, and with that, you will reduce visual breaks for end users. That means you harmonize all your applications with one single custom theme and make it easy for your users to switch between systems because they all look alike. And for sure, you can save multiple themes because one theme is not enough. You have different users, you have different applications, and maybe you want to switch between of them. But how does this work? I can tell you it's not magic. The technology we use behind that is called Less.js. I think most of you have heard of Less.js. Less.js extends CSS with dynamic behavior, such as variables, mix-ins, operations, and functions. And on top of that, the UI theme designer then exposes a set of theming parameters. These theming parameters are reflected in variables in Less.js. These theming parameters then can be different color values, background images, icons, and many more. Dominic will give you later more insights of that. In the end, all change parameters are then stored in your custom theme, and the theme generator will substitute all references to the CSS files. So if we have a look on the picture on the right side, starting from the bottom, we always have the SAP base theme. On top, there's your custom theme with the change parameters. Both of them will go into the theme generator, and the outcome are the library CSS files, and these library CSS files are then applied to your applications. Let's have another look on the process. Starting on top this time, we have two types of users. On the left side, we have the end users interacting with the applications. And on the right side, let's call them designers. Not all of them are designers for sure. They are interacting with the UI theme designer. So this picture made clear the end user is not interacting with the UI theme designer tool itself. He's only interacting with the application and get the custom theme applied. So starting on the right, the designer will build the custom theme in our tool, the UI theme designer, then saves the custom theme within our repository into the object store. And if the end user calls the application asks our runtime for the custom theme. The custom theme is loaded into the runtime and is compiled for the used technology and is then applied to the applications. And the end users see only the styled application with the custom theme. I think this is a short overview how the process is working. Besides, we don't go into details, otherwise we will sit here many hours maybe. More interesting, let's go into a live demo. I will show you the UI theme designer and how you can build your first custom theme. But first, a few words about the setup we will enter now. We have an FLP set up with some applications of different technologies. And I think this is not your first Devtoberfest presentation. And maybe you saw that we always use the same color schemes in our presentations. And why not make a custom theme out of these presentations to get rid of the boring SAP Morning Horizon theme. And with that, we exit the presentation and start our browser. So this is the FLP I was talking about. Only a few applications are in there, but it's not important what these applications are about. To start the theme designer, open the theme manager in your FLP. There you have a list of the base themes, but we want custom themes now. So for that, we will launch the UI theme designer, open them in a new browser tab. And this is the typical start screen of the UI theme designer. There's one backup theme I have prepared for today. Hopefully we don't need it because we want to create a new theme live. For that, open the create new theme dialog, select your base theme. We will go with the SAP Morning Horizon theme, but you can also start with SAP Evening Horizon or older themes. So create a new theme. So here we have the representation of the UI theme designer. On the left side, we have a list of selected preview pages. We can add more preview pages, but I think the FLP preview page is enough for our demo now. Here in the center, we have the preview page, and on the right side, we have the place where the parameters are shown that are customizable. We group these parameters to make it more easy for customers to start. We have quick theming, detailed theming. We have mobile theming for mobile previews. And then there is an expert theming. There is the place where we can define our palette. And what I don't mention in the presentation is that we also can write custom CSS, but not in this demo today. So let's start with the most important thing for companies, the logo. Devtoberfest has also a cool logo, so let's start uploading this logo right away. Just select the Devtoberfest logo, open it, press OK, and you can see the change is immediately effective in the preview page. So let's go on and use our color values. But I'm lazy and I don't want to type in always the color values. For that, I will define palette parameters. Our first parameter is something like indigo, and the color code is 470 CED. The second color is something blue, and the color value is UDF 8FF. And the last color we will use is something teal. And this is the E0BF. So these are the three colors we can also see in the logo. And with these colors, we will jump back to quick theming and start with the brand color. Our brand color will be indigo. And to use the indigo, just type in an add and the name of the variable, hit enter, and see that brand color will change this one. The focus color should not be indigo, it should be teal. Maybe the link color should also be teal. So focus color will affect tiles if they are focused. There are no links currently on the preview page, but if there are links, they will get teal as color. Let's go on and focus on the header. There is too much white, so let's change the header background color from white to blue. Looks much better. Go on with the gray background, get rid of it, also blue. Okay, very nice, but still very boring tiles. So in the quick theming, there is no group for tiles. We have to go to the detailed theming, scroll a bit down, and there we have a group for tiles and cards. Let's change the background color of the tiles to teal. Okay, looking good. Border color could stay transparent. The title color, text color, and icon color should go with indigo. And indigo. Okay, looks very similar to the presentation colors theme. And it's a very cool custom theme in a few minutes, but there's one thing that's disturbing me a bit. So the sales order title is in black. Doesn't fit very well. Let's change it. But I don't know the parameter of this. And remember the presentation, we have a cool color. We have a cool picker for that. Go to expert, select the control picker, and just hover over the preview page, select the group title, and you can see that now a list of parameters that is used in this group is shown on the right. And the correct parameter then is subshell group title text color. And let's change this to indigo. Let's see how this looks. Much better. And I think with that, this is a custom theme we can apply to our FLP and make available for all users. For that, just hit save and publish, give it a cool name, call it Devtoberfest, and it's a Devtoberfest Morning Horizon theme. Hit save and publish. Now the theme is saved to our object store. We will do some tests in the background to check if all parameters are set correctly. And if this is done, we can close the custom. Okay, we have a live error. Let's see if it still built the custom theme. It's close. Okay. Don't know what it is, but here we have our Devtoberfest custom theme. Let's go back to the FLP and see if the custom theme is now available in the theme manager. For that, let's reload. Okay. Here it is, the Devtoberfest Morning Horizon theme. Overseeing it. Okay, select the Devtoberfest Morning Horizon theme, set it as default, hit save, reload the page. Nothing changed. That's a specialty from the FLP. We only select it as a default, but there are settings and we have to change the appearance of the FLP because each user can change the appearance on their own. So select the Devtoberfest Morning Horizon as the appearance theme. Hit save. reload the page. Fingers crossed that it is working. Yeah, and here now our custom theme is applied to our FLP, and it looks like in our editor, and we can use it right away. So this is the end of my live demo. I hope you learned how easy it is to customize applications at SAP within the UI theme designer. And with that, I will hand over to Dominic. Dominic, I guess you are still muted, sorry.
Yeah, I'm muted. Now you can hear me, and I hope you can see my screen. David just showed how easy it is to create a custom theme, and I will show you how this looks in a bit more detail in the applications or the frameworks that use them. When SAP designers start with a custom theme or with an SAP theme, they usually have a palette of what they call DNA parameters, which are the colors that make up a theme. Which red should be used, which blue should be used, which gray should be used. And they are so central that they just give them numbers. They call them subprimary 1 to 7. Maybe in the future they have subprimary 11 and 24, but for now they can work with just 7 colors. And those are the basis for themes, and they are not even themable. You don't see them in the theme designer. They're just for the designers, and then for us with less in the theming-based content, where we map those parameters to parameters that are actually used. And those are 3 different types of parameters. What you most likely use as a customer are what we would call global parameters, like that what David just themed, the brand color, the focus color, the highlight color. Those are essential parameters for whole applications. It doesn't matter where the brand color appears. You want your brand in every place the same color. Also for highlight color and all the others. And it's very likely, like David showed, that with just changes to 3 to 5 parameters of this nature, you can describe your whole corporate design. But then there are tiny, slightly changes that have to be made to parameters to make them actually usable in components. For example, you have a button, and you want the button background to be mapped to the brand color, but if you hover it, you want it a bit lighter. And still, and this is what our designers always have in mind, all colors have to comply with accessibility guidelines. They have to provide the right contrast from text against background so that visually impaired users can work well with the themes. So control or component developers usually don't use those global parameters directly. They have a large list of what we would call component parameters, specifically for different types of components. Everything that looks like a button uses parameters from the SAP button namespace. Everything that looks like a field uses the SAP field namespace, and so on and so on. And we found that the namespaces we have are enough to describe everything that you see on the screen. Even if you come up with a new component and you say, oh, that's perfectly new, we don't have it in the theming based content yet. Usually when you look at it, you see that it's made up of other components, and we already have those other components. So component parameters are what are recommended for developers to work with. And then we have different palettes of colors. We have indication colors, we have legend colors, we have chart colors, we have avatar colors, we have shell category colors, which are sets of the brightest colors, usually intended for designers to indicate differences. And those palettes in themselves have their own identity, I would call it. For example, the indication colors have hover states and borders which fit well to the 16 colors that we have there. Whereas the avatar colors work well with high contrast themes. And depending on what you need and what you are describing in your application, you tend to use different palettes. But again, most of the time, as we are in Devtoberfest, and if you're a developer, you most likely use the component parameters. And this is how the themes at SAP are structured. And then you have to know in your application what theme to apply. And for that, we have the SAP theme URL parameter, which is understood by SAP UI5, by WebDynpro ABAP, by fundamental library styles, by UI5 WebComponents. Everyone understands the SAP theme URL parameter. In the most simple form, it's just the theme ID, Devtoberfest, for example. But in a more complex scenario, you use an add to describe where to load the theme from. This is what we would call a theme repository. And as different technologies, most likely different CSS files from this theme repository, each technology then decides which CSS file to load based on the SAP theme URL parameter. In the most simple form, and this is what fundamental library styles and UI5 WebComponents use, you access the CSS variables, CSS file from the base framework, which contains a list of all theming parameters as custom CSS properties. And this is what we will be using in my demo to create our own HTML without any SAP UI framework, just parsing the SAP theme URL parameter and using those custom CSS properties and theming our own HTML with it. Let's jump into a code pen. Just create a new code pen. And we will be theming a button. Press me. We will need a style sheet. Let's give it an ID so that we can access it from JavaScript, call it variables. And then let's remember how this SAP theme parameter looks like. It's the theme ID at the theme repository somewhere. As this comes as a URL parameter, it will be part of location. Let's search, and we will parse it with new URL search params. Get SAP theme. Now, if we don't have this parameter, we will use a default. We will default to SAP Horizon. Now, as said, we have an add in that, so we may have to split this string and we want a theme ID and a theme repository from it. Let's again add defaults here. The theme repository. The theming base content is available in the npm.js registry. So our default theme repository will be a CDN which serves npm packages. The npm package is called SAP theming base content. And inside there, we have the content folder, which is such a theme repository. Now, all we have to do is create a URL from that, as I set. This is theme root repository / base baselib theme ID, CSS variables. And we use that as the href of variables like this. This is all JavaScript we need to parse this SAP theme parameter. And now we're starting the theme. Let's start with the body itself so that we see that something works. We start with the background color and use sub background color for it. So this doesn't change much because sub background color is pretty light, but we could use sub horizon dark here to have a dark background. So we see that essentially the theme is connected to our CSS and it works, and we'll now create a button. We don't want the default browser appearance. We set appearance to none, but we want a cursor pointer so that it still feels like a button if you hover it. And now we can start with the SAP theming parameters. Start with the height. We have sub element height for that. And you see the button already increased. Sub element height is the recommended height for all single line controls in the cozy form factor. We would also have sub element compact height for the compact form factor. But we'll stick with sub element height for now. We'll be using the font size sub font size. Now the text got a bit bigger. And we start with wiring up the button parameters. With the background color. And we'll be creating an emphasized button because the emphasized button is mapped to the brand color, and that's easy to show. So button emphasized background and our button turned blue. And we have a companion parameter. This is a button emphasized text color, which has a contrast statement in the SAP theme so that whenever you change the sub button emphasized background, the sub button emphasized text color has a color that has enough contrast, or that has the best possible contrast out of the two options it has. Let's add a border. We need a border width, and we don't have an emphasized button border width. We just have the button border width. So we will be using that as well as the sub button border style. But we have the sub button emphasized border color. And we have a border radius called sub button border corner radius. And now our button has a radius at the corners. Let's add a padding of 0 and 0.75 rem. We don't have a parameter here because we're hesitant to add what we call metric parameters to the theming base content or make them themable for customers, because it's easy to shoot yourself in the foot with them as a customer. If you change the padding here, all buttons on all applications get larger. Most likely some line breaks will no longer fit. Buttons will move into overflows of toolbars. And to keep you as a customer from all this hassle, we just don't have a parameter. But now we have a button. We could also add a hover state. Sub button emphasized hover background. Sub button emphasized hover text color and border color. Sub button emphasized hover border color. And now if I hover it, it gets a slight bit darker. Okay, that's essentially how you can apply an SAP theme to your own HTML. You don't have to stick with with an SAP UI framework. You don't have to stick with anything. You can just add that to your own HTML. If you want, you can use different levels of pre-thought libraries from SAP. For example, you can use fundamental library styles. Then you get CSS classes that you can apply to your own HTML that do this here already. Or you can even use UI5 WebComponents. Then you get web components that not only have the right CSS to work with theming, but also provide the necessary accessibility markup for screen readers, for example. Or you can even use a fully fledged UI5 application where you have a programming model that works well with SAP's backends. But you don't have to. You can just use your own CSS and just use custom CSS properties in there. Now, what I would like to do is to add what we wrote here to the Fiori Launchpad David custom themed with this Devtoberfest theme. For that, let's create just an HTML file. And I will be uploading it to my private own GitHub pages where I can serve it with HTTPS. That's the whole thing. We need an HTML file somewhere that we can register in the Fiori Launchpad. And now we have to do everything that CodePen did for us. So we have to provide the HTML around everything. But it's not much. Let's add the link to the head, add the button to the body, add the CSS to a style element, and add the JavaScript to a script. And that's it. I can show you that it works. Start an HTTP server on my local host. And here you have the button with the theme. This works. Okay, stop. Just upload it to GitHub.com, to my personal space. Git push. Git push. Now a GitHub action starts and it takes some seconds until it's there. But we can start with David's Fiori Launchpad. Theming demo. There it is. I have to log in, leave CodePen. Here we see what he just did. That's very nice. And I will be managing the site in the site manager and add a new content here, an app. Call it CodePen. And let's see if the GitHub page worked. Not yet. It takes a bit. We could use the backup but I would rather use the one I just uploaded. Let's use the backup. We have to give it a name, CodePen, and an action, open, hit save. And now we have to go back here and tell everyone that we have a new app. Here, the CodePen, save it. And we have to put it into this framework examples group. Here it is, CodePen, save. Now we can go back to the site, and we have another tile here called CodePen, which we just created. And if I open it, we have a button, press me, and the button has the background color David just created in his custom theme. And that's how easy it is to create your own custom theme and add it to your own application, no matter which technology you're using. And basically, this is what we wanted to show you. And I will return to my demo and a thank you, because now I think we have time to jump into questions you have. And this is what we wanted to do. We wanted to make this live so that we can interact with you. I'm curious what you have as questions.
Thank you so much, David and Dominic. I think everybody's absolutely spellbound. We have lots of viewers online. No questions yet, so now is a chance to ask your questions. By the way, I was monitoring the GitHub action in your dominicschreiber.github.io, and it's still, the page build and deployment is still running, so that's why we didn't see the DevToberfest HTML, and it's still running right now, even after 2 minutes. So. Great to have a backup. I have a question, actually. I never knew about the ability to qualify a theme name, DevToberfest, for example, in the query string of the URL with the @ and then the theme repository or registry, whatever you called it. I can't remember the name. In the value, does that have to be URL encoded, or in practice, have you seen that happen, or is it okay not to URL encode that value?
Usually, if you enter that into your browser URL bar, then the browser will URL encode that for you. If you hit a curl command, you most likely have to do that for yourself.
Fantastic. Let me just give people a chance to ask the questions. So Santiago, thank you for your question and comment here. I'll read it out. Santiago says, in this case, I understand that the work zone acts as a central repository for all the CSS. Is it possible to do the same without using the portal or work zone service?
Yeah, so this depends on where you are using the theme designer. On SAP BTP Cloud Foundry, we are part of the portal. It's called Work Zone Standard Edition now, of this package. So essentially you have to buy this Work Zone Standard Edition, and then you get the theme designer for free. You have no option to just buy the theme designer on Cloud Foundry at the moment. This is something we're working on right now, to even open source what we have so that you can run it locally, because in a sense it's a web page which executes JavaScript, and you could host that wherever you want, at least for the design time. For the runtime, there are multiple microservices that provide cloud scale compiling, so that's not that easy. But if you host your themes yourself, then you can do that wherever you want, and most likely you would put them onto a CDN.
Perfect. Great question. Great answer. Thanks, Dominic, and thanks, Santiago. By the way, the GitHub action to deploy your DevToberfest HTML is now completed after 4 minutes and 26 seconds. So it's there now.
Okay. So now we could change, but I think you will believe me that it's just.
Yes, I think it was great that we did that. I think that's really cool. Are there any more questions? I had another question. Could you please just go back to the JavaScript if you still got the code pen open?
I've moved away from it, but
okay.
that's no problem. I have it here.
In the there we go there.
So that's an awful long line that I wrote there.
I made a comment on the lovely use of destructuring there. I just wanted to make sure that people understood what you were doing in that single const assignment, because we got some destructuring, we got a default value for one of the constants, and the destructuring comes, of course, from the array that's created by the split. But maybe it would be worth you unpacking that lovely expression.
Yeah, sure. So in a sense, we get a string from here, and this may be null. We have a string here, and so that we don't work with null strings, we work with the default value here, and we split that into an array. It is possible that we have more than 2 entries here, because I could put anything into the SAP theme parameter, like 5 adds, and then I would have 6 entries, but I don't care. At least for the demo, I don't care. And now I have an array. In the older times, I would have added this array, or I would have put this into a variable, like const my array. And then I would have said const theme ID is my array 0, and const theme repository is my array 1. And then I would have said, if I don't have my array 1, I would have had to use a default value. So my array length is greater than 1, then I use it. Otherwise, I use the default value. And this all is no longer needed because JavaScript finally became a useful language.
Hard but
and
fair.
you can destructure assignments. And you have it.
Thank you, Dominic, for that explanation. I think that was great. I mean, I think you also made that nice little comment about it's the dev in Devtoberfest that matters, and so we're all developers here. It's always nice to learn some modern JavaScript techniques. Thank you. So we have some nice applause from Eugene as well. So thank you, Eugene, for the applause. I don't think there are any more questions, so I guess we're done. Thank you so much, David and Dominic, for a spellbinding presentation. My CSS doesn't work with my brain, but the abstraction above CSS really works for me, and I totally grok this and appreciate the work that you do in the team. So thank you both for the presentation and for the theme designer. And Santiago says thank you as well. It just occurred to me to remind everybody in the chat that I'm looking at my thing now, my watch, my clock, in 40 minutes time. So at 1/2 the next hour, we've got the first of 2 trivia quizzes, also as part of Devtoberfest. Let me put the link in to the YouTube link. There. Oh, by the way, we have a question from Marco with a thinking thing. I wonder if there are any news regarding a standalone version of the theme design.
Yeah, that's what I teased a bit with this open sourcing of the theme designer. We are actively working on that, and we plan to have it somewhere in the near future, but for sure we cannot give timelines at the moment. The biggest roadblocker for us at the moment is that we and this goes into more detail. David described that we use less to compile everything, and because we started 11 years ago, we use an old less version. We use the last less version that compiled synchronously, which was less 163. And before we open source the theme designer and make it available standalone, we do want to upgrade to the latest less version, which would be 4.0 or 4.20 at the moment. But this compiles asynchronously, and so we have to transform our whole code base from synchronous execution to asynchronous execution. And the code base is large. Over the last 11 years, I think we have 50,000 lines only in the engine which compiles the themes, and another 50,000 lines in the theming UI, which is the theme designer David showed in the browser. And then we also have all those Cloud Foundry microservices, but they already work asynchronously to provide the necessary speed. Yeah, so this is what we're actively working on. No timelines yet, but
stay curious.
Will come. Stay curious, right?
Stay curious. A brilliant way to end. Thank you so much. Thanks for the great question, Marco. Thanks for the answer, Dominic. Yeah. And thanks for the phrase that we should think about for the rest of the day. Stay curious.
That's right.
And yeah, and Marco
also
said, good luck and thanks for the update.
Thank you. We're very active in the SAP community, and if you have questions in the future or somewhere, you can always hit us up there in the let me find the right tag. That's not planned yet, but here, SAP community. The topic is UI theme designer, and from time to time we write blog posts there, and we try to answer timely to questions we have. The topic UI theme designer. There you can find us. Here I wrote a blog post in September, and also we sometimes get questions here. Feel free, hit us up there.
Brilliant. And the clacky keyboard sound was me just trying to type that into the chat. So there we go. Just shared that. Fantastic. So thank you so much for that fantastic presentation, David and Dominic, and thank you everybody for joining. So don't forget, in just over half an hour's time, join us in the URL that's just in the chat just up there for a fun quiz, random quiz with Shilpa and Rika. And yeah, so have a great rest of Friday, have a great weekend, and it's goodbye from me.
And thank you, and goodbye from our side.
Have a nice day. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.